Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of data visualization. So thank you for joining. This week we are going to focus on how to create a bar chart. We are going to learn all about how we can manipulate a bar chart. Doing these type of bars, we're going to create horizontal bars. We're going to create an overlay. You see how the color overlays one another. We're going to look at different rows and different columns, changing the color. We're going to use continuous values instead of discrete values. We're going to look at statistical stuff in bars, different templates. We're going to create animated bars with the play button. And we're going to also look into playing around with the text inside and how to actually play around with the layout so you can decide on different widths of different columns and the text and the legends and different part of the graph. So by the end of this tutorial, you hopefully will master the bar chart. You'll know everything you need to know about the bar chart. A few weeks ago, we learned the pie chart and we learned how to do a scatter plot. And this week, we're going to focus on this. So I hope I'll help you enjoy. Okay. So to get started, make sure that you go into the YouTube video. Under the YouTube video, open the description and open all the links. All the links are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different links, and they will allow you to follow along. Actually, it has 6 links because it also has the code and the data, so 7 links. This is the first thing we're going to go over, the first link. This is the bar method inside the Plotly Express. So we're actually going to go over all these parameters. So you'll learn all of them today and what these means. Each one of them has a description, but I also added a description in the code below, so on the right in red, so you can actually see in my words what each one of these parameters mean. We are going to use this data right here. We're going to focus on one state from 2001 to 2013. There's different columns here. These are prisoners in India prisons. There's different castes. There's 4 different castes here, and there's 4 different columns. There's convicts, political prisoners, I think, detainees, political prisoners, and prisoners under trial, and others. So we're going to focus on most of these columns here. Make sure to download that Excel sheet because we're going to have to import that into the database, into the code. Okay, so we're going to start with this. Inside the code, import these libraries. You're going to need Plotly Express. Plotly Express is part of the Plotly library, which is a great software, a great library to actually build a gazillion and one Plotly graphs or charts, figures, anything you really want to do. If you don't have it, just make sure to pip install this version or a similar version. If you don't know how to do that in your own environment, just click on the video above and you can click into the how to install a virtual environment using Anaconda. We'll install Plotly or Dash in there. Within 5-10 minutes, you'll be up and running and you'll be ready to go. So this is where I took the Excel sheet from, the data from. We are going to import it into a pandas data frame. We're only going to focus on the Maharashtra state in India, no other states. And we're going to group this data by year and by gender. So here you see the result. You see that you have 2 years in each for each year. The 2001, and there's female and male for each year, and then you have the total number because we put here sum. You have the total number of detainees, which I think are political prisoners in India, under trial, and convicts in India prisons by year. This is what we're going to plot on the bar chart. So this is how you do it. You do bar chart equals, or anything you want. This is the object I'm going to call it. Is going to equal to Plotly Express dot bar, because that's the bar method, and it's going to be all the way down here to this parentheses. That's what we're going to focus on today. All of these are the different parameters that we're going to focus on. All right. So the first parameter is data frame that we're going to use is the DF, because that is the data frame that we're going to use right here, the DF, the group by. The x-axis is going to be year, the y-axis is going to be the number of convicts, and we're going to divide the chart by gender, and the orientation is going to be vertical bars, and the bar mode is going to be relative. So if you run this first piece of code, you are going to end up with this. vertical bars, y-axis, x-axis is year, y-axis is convex, and then by gender. All right. Now this is a relative bar mode. If you want the bar mode to be, let's say, overlay, and you run this with overlay, the result will be that. Sorry. This is actually horizontal. So first of all, let's look at horizontal. If you want a horizontal bar chart, just make sure that you change the axis, year convex, because I changed it from vertical to horizontal. And if you change this and you write this code like this, horizontal, convex, and year, you will actually get a horizontal bar chart. So you're going to get this, which is the same way. It just looks different. I like horizontal bar charts, especially if there's not too many marks, too many graphs. So I would say in this case, it's kind of a good idea, but we're going to focus on the vertical just to for the rest of this tutorial. So let's change this back. Now, there are 3 different bar modes you can use. I'm going to use overlay. Relative is the default bar mode, but I'm going to see what overlay looks like. If you do overlay, it looks like this. So you see how the orange overlays the blue? You still see the blue in here, and you still see the number because of the hover, but they overlay one each other. There's one other option, which you can use as group. And if you do group, the third and last option, you see how they're grouped one by the other because there's only female and male, so there's 2 in each group. The relative is the default value, and this is like this. They're one on top of each other. Okay? Okay, so the next thing we're going to learn is how to create different rows. To do that, we actually, let's put this back to relative, to the original one. We actually use facet row. This is a facet row parameter. To use this one, don't forget to hashtag this out because I want the cast system to be in there, and this does not have the cast system in the data. So unhashtag this out, and now you have the cast system. And I want facet row to be cast. So now I'm categorizing the bar chart not only according to gender and convex and year, but I'm also adding a cast categorization in there, which has, remember, 4 different casts. But because there's so much information, it's going to divide it into different rows. So now you see that the first cast is SC, ST the second one, OBC, and others. So this is usually a great thing to use, the facet row or facet column, if there's a lot of data that you want to plot all in the same graph. Just do it in different rows or different columns because it's just easier to see and to read it. If we do this, facet column and facet column wrap, you actually get these. You see there's 2 charts in each, 2 graphs in each column. And why is that? Because we said that the facet column is going to be cast. So everything is going to be divided by columns. So we have 4 casts. We're supposed to have 4 columns. If I did this, if only this was here, if only this, I ran the code only with this, then I would have 4 different columns. But if you have too many columns, let's say you have 10 different casts, and you don't want to have 10 different columns, you can just say this. You can use the facet call wrap parameter, which allows you to specify the maximum number of subplots columns. So here I just want 2 different rows. So all the columns will be divided into 2 different rows. Because I have 4 columns, 2 rows means every row is going to be 2 graphs. If I had 2 here, but I said, let's say I had 10 different columns because I had 10 different cast systems, then each row, instead of 2, it would have 5 graphs here and 5 graphs here. This is very makes things a lot easier when you want to plot a lot of data in the same graph. All right, so we went over the facet row and facet column. Make sure that if you use these 2, you do not use facet row. Okay, these are used together, but without this. All right. So the next thing is to use color discrete. This is the default color of Plotly is I think usually orange and blue. But let's say you want a different color. this is the way to do it. You use color discrete sequence. Inside the list, you have strings. I'm only putting 2 strings here because remember the color is gender, and in gender we only have 2, female and male. So I want the first one to be pink and the second one to be yellow. I don't know what the first one is, but all I know is that it's pink and the second one is yellow. But if you have a lot of genders, a lot of things, discrete values inside the legend, and you don't remember which one is the first one, which is the second one, and third one, you can just go, instead of using this, you can use color discrete map. So I want them, now you're mapping the key inside the dictionary, the key to the value. So the key is going to be male, and the value is going to be the color gray, female, and the color red. So this is what you get. So this is a lot easier when you want to control, when you don't remember everything inside the legend. Just map the values of the legend to a certain color that you want. Okay, now let's say we're going to use, the next thing we're going to learn to do is how to color code continuous values. For this, we're actually going to bring this back on hashtag this, so we don't have the cast system anymore, and we are going to color has to be discrete, continuous, because we are using continuous. We have to be a continuous value. Here gender is female and male, so it's discrete. Let's change it to continuous. Let's change it to convicts, and if you do it this way, what you get is this. So now I have convicts in my hash are the legend because it's a continuous value, and the darkest ones are, well, the blue ones are going to be 1,000 and the red ones are going to be 10,000. Okay, so there's several different things to unpack here. First of all, why is it from 1,000 to 10,000? That is because I decided it to be 1,000 to 10,000 because I did range color 1 to 10,000. By default, it probably would have been 1 to 9,000. It would have ended here, or it would have ended at 8,000 because that's the maximum it goes up to. But I wanted to go up to 10,000, so I just did this. Okay. Now, why did we see these colors, red to blue? It is because I chose diverging. Now, there's different continuous scales that you can use with Plotly, and this is in the link below, so go into the second link in the YouTube video, or the third. Anyway, the one that starts with this, the continuous color scales, and there's 3 different scales. The first one is sequential. The second one is diverging that I use, and then the third one I think is cyclical. So I chose diverging because I like the colors, and I like that there's a diverging. It means that there's a neutral, a white color in the middle, and then all the way to the left and all the way to the right are completely different colors. So that's why, and I chose in diverging, I chose picnic. So I chose these colors from blue all the way to red, right? So that's why the code is written in px.colors.diverging.picnic. Those are the colors you see. But again, only use this when the column or the value of the color is discrete. Convex is a discrete, continuous, is a continuous value. You can use that. You can also control the midpoint if you want. I didn't do this in this tutorial, but if you want it, that'll probably be like 1,000 or something, or let's say 5,000. Midpoint only is used when you're using continuous diverging, when you're using this, and not sequential or cyclical. All it means is that right here you see that where is it? The middle, the white one in diverging is 5,000. Well, what if you don't want it to be 5,000? What if you want the white to be somewhere down here, and then anything below it is blue, and anything above it is pink and red? Then that is when you would put midpoint 3,000, because that's what you want. So it's kind of cool that it Plotly gives you the opportunity to control the midpoint of that continuous diverging scale in the graph. All right, so let's block this out. Let's block this out, hashtag this out, and let's change this back to gender. And now let's look into all these. This allows you to actually control the hover on that comes up with the mouse when you go with the mouse over the bar mark, and it actually allows you to control the text inside or outside the bar mark. What does this mean? This is actually this. Let's see it all here. Here. So you see how text means convex? It means that the text is going to be inside, the bar mark is going to be, the number is going to be equal to the number of convex. So now I don't have to look at the y-axis, I can just look at the bar and see how many convex is in each bar. All right. The next one is hover name under trial. This means that the values appear in bold. You see the values appear in bold. So anything inside the hover tooltip, you see 13,869. That's the prisoners that are under trial. Same with female, 648, and this one in bold is 14,863. These are the under trial prisoners. And this is something that I added, right? I'm going to also add hover data. I'm going to add to the hover, I'm going to add detenus, which I think are political prisoners. So now you'll see in the hover, under convicts in Maharashtra, you'll see detenus 365, here detenus 299, and in the female all the way down is detenus equals 8. This was not there originally. In the hover, the only text that is in the hover originally is the text that you plot. So you will have the gender, because we plotted by color, you will have the x-axis, which is year, and you'll have the y-axis, which is convicts. But you don't have the detenus, and you don't have the under trial, unless you say this. Hover name, you use this parameter, and you use this parameter. You can put anything else you want in here. Custom data is not something that you're going to see. This is an invisible value, values that are extra data to be used in dash callbacks or widgets like in Jupyter. So this is a bit more complex. This is if you know how to use dash, or you use interactive data graphs like bar chart with a drop down or with a checklist or with a date picker, whatever, you can actually have access to more data. Now, but to have access to more data, you need to tell the Dash app to remember to put into memory that data. So here we're saying the custom data is going to be others. So now I can access, if I access with a dropdown the custom data, I will actually access another data point, which is others. Again, this is really if you go into Dash Interactive. If you want to know a little bit more about the custom data, you can see different Dash Interactive videos that I've also created. Or if you have any questions about this, please feel free to comment below. All right, so the next chart we're going to look into are more statistical charts. So let's hashtag this out, make this a little bit bigger, and we're going to use the error. We're going to look into error. Also, don't forget to unhashtag this. Okay, so before you actually calculate or use statistical methods on the bar chart, in this case, we're going to use error y and error y minus. You have to calculate. You have to make sure that there's columns. This error plus and error minus are columns that I created of fake data, df error plus and df error minus, and I'm creating fake margin of errors. So I'm saying df convex divided by 100 is going to be my positive margin of error, and df convex divided by 40 is going to be my negative margin of error. You could use also standard deviation. You can do anything you want. And once you have these columns, then you can use them down here. When you say I want my error y, you can also do error x or error x minus. Here I want my error y and error y minus to be those columns, and that is how we get these error bars, meaning that the true data could be anywhere between 8,000 whatever 200 and something to, or it's right here, 7,800 plus 78 or minus 195. But again, this is fake data. If you're a statistician, you know how to create, how to find this data on your own. But just make sure to add them to the data frame columns before you actually put them inside the parameters. All right, so let's hashtag this out. Now let's hashtag, oh, so the next thing is actually, let's see if we actually go into here. So you learn how to do that. Look at this template. This is a different template. This also has a black in the background and the color is a little bit different. How did I do that? This I use with this template. I actually used Plotly Dark. So if you use Plotly Dark instead of Grid On, this is a template that you get. Grid On, or probably Grid In, or however you say it, is a regular template. Is like this, white in the background and stuff like that. Here is the Plotly Dark template. There are many different, there are probably about 10 or 12 different templates. Just try any of these and choose the one that you like the most. This was always activated, so just to go over what it means, height and width, these are in pixels. This is the size of the chart, so 1400 right here is the width, and this height is 700 something pixels. You can make it bigger or smaller, just play around with it, and you can do it on your own. Title is Indian Prison Statistics, that's why you see the title of here, right here. And then the labels, you can actually map the labels and choose to change the label names, because the original label of the legend is gender with a small g. I wanted to make it a capital G, so I put the gender to look like this. And then convict is the original y axis. That's the column data is called convicts, so it would only be convicts. But I don't want to see convicts. I want the user to see convicts in Maharashtra. So that's how I did it. Now you see convicts in Maharashtra and you see gender with a capital G. So all you have to do is labels is equal to a dictionary of keys and values. The key is the original label, and the value is the value that you want to change it to. All right. The next plot is going to be an animation, and we're going to learn to use the animation frame with animation parameter. For that, we're going to hashtag these back in. Let's see, it's right here. Hashtag these back in, and just make sure to change the x-axis from year to change that to gender, because the play button is already going to be year. This is the play button. The animation frame is going to be year, and so you don't need animation frame to be year and the x-axis to be year. So I'm going to put x-axis as gender. I'm going to put animation frame year. So it's going to be from 2013 all the way to 2001, because that's the order I wanted it. The original order is from 2001 all the way to 2013, but I want it in a different order. So you use category orders, and this is in a dictionary, and this is the way to change it. You want to change the key, the column value is year, and then the values is going to be a list of the way you want to change it. And the last thing is range Y or range X. You always want to make sure that you set the range of the y-axis or the x-axis. So here's between 0 and 9,000. Let's see. That's why you see 0 all the way to 9,000, and you see the year 2013 all the way to 2001, and the x-axis is gender because that is what we chose. Let's see if we do stop. Let's do bring it back. Let's do play, and now you'll see how the bars move up and down according to year from different year. You have the text inside here. Don't forget, if you want the text inside here, just make sure to put right here text convicts. Hashtag this back in. Okay. The most important thing when you do an animation frame, don't forget to set your y-axis and the x-axis. Here you do not need to set the x-axis because it's gender, female and male, but the y-axis you do need to set from the lowest value all the way to the highest possible value. I know the highest possible value in the y-axis, I think this one goes up to, the male goes up to 9,000 convicts or 8,000 something, so I set it at 9,000. But if you don't set it, if you allow it to do by default, it's not going to look good, it's going to be very jumpy, so always make sure to remember to set your y-axis or x-axis range. If you want to learn more about how to create an animated bar chart or a racing bar chart, just click on the video up below. It has a lot of views, it has a lot of likes, and you'll be able to go into greater detail of how to create an animated racing bar graph. All right, so let's look at the next graph. The next graph plays a little bit around with the layout. And how do we do that? So let's hashtag this out. Let's change this back to grid in. How do you even say that word? I wonder how they even pronounce it. Text is going to be convex. Leave this in there. And let's change this back to year. Okay? All right, and now we're going to play around with the layout. Oh, I forgot. I forgot to actually, these, when you use animation year frame, animation frame year, when you animate your bar graph, this actually helps you control the timing because it's usually very quick. It usually goes 2013, 12, 11, 10, but I don't want it to go that fast. I want it to be a year, 1 second. This is 1,000 milliseconds. I want it to be 1 second of wait time between each year. So you will see here that it takes 1 second, 1 second, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, all right? And the bars to shift from one point to another takes half a second. And that's why you have 500 here and 1,000 here. I'm not going to explain how to go into this code. This is deep inside the bar chart layout parameters. So this is, I wrote it up for you. This is how to go into the code. If you want to learn more about how I got there, just go into print, just print this section, and you will see how I got all the way down here and define it as 1,000. Okay, so this is for the animated. We're going to animate this out. I'm going to go into the layout. Okay, don't forget to make sure that you're back into text convex and that you're back into x-axis is gender, and this is how it looks. All right. Okay. So for the layout, this is what we did with the layout. Before I explain this, I'm going to give you the documentation. This is just animation. If you want to read more about the animated bar charts in Plotly, they'll show you that. And the layout. Make sure to click on this link below the video. The Plotly graph objects.layout gives you all the different ways you can play around with the layout of different charts. I'm going to play around with the bar chart. So, and all the different parameters. Our parameters that I'm going to focus on is uniform text, min size, and mode. So let's see the uniform text. Let's go in there, Control F. Let's look for uniform text. You see we have that here, uniform text, perfect. So now we have uniform text, and inside we can control the min size, or we can control the mode, and you can just go down and read a little bit about what each means. I'm going to spare you the time and tell you what it means. This just means that this is pixel size of how big you want the text inside the bar graphs or outside. You can control that as well. I want them to be 14 pixels, and the mode is to be hide. That means that you see how here you have 484, 463, 449, but here you don't have anything inside the blue, and that's because they are hidden. Because I chose 14 pixels for the size of the text mode, text size, and if it's too big to go inside the bar mark, then it's hidden. The other options are text mode, show, or false. If you put show, it would show here somehow on top of it or below it, it would show. But I chose hide because it's a pretty big pixels. We're using 14 pixels, so I want to hide it if it's too big. But it's kind of cool that now you see inside the bar marks, you see the text of each bar marks of convex. But why do you see convex? Because remember, we chose text convex. Okay. So this was the size of the text. Also, legend is x-axis is going to be 0, y-axis is going to be 1. I think it's always 0 for 1, and that is why the legend is right here on the left as opposed to right here on the right. You can put the legend anywhere you want. This is how you decide where you want to put it. Just play around with the numbers and see how you can move it around. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is hashtag this. And let's actually leave this out. And this actually refers to the update traces. And we're updating the traces. We're going to update the width of each bar mark. We're going to update the position of the text. So now it's going to be outside the bar mark and not inside. And we're going to say, just give me the 2 digits after the period. I don't want 8,564. I just want to see 2 digits after the period. And what you do is, this is the result. You see? So actually the legend is still here, which means that I actually This is also in the script. So the width is 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. The middle bar mark is 0.6. That's what you have. All of them are still small, and the middle one is 0.6. And the text is only 2 digits. You see 8.7K, because only 2 digits after the period. If I wanted to see 3 or 4 digits, then I would just change this number right here, right? And the text position is outside. So you see how it's outside of the bar and not inside. 500. If you had ones here, it'll be outside. You don't see text above these or outside these bar marks because they're too small. They're 0.3. If you made them 0.4 or 0.6, then you would see them, but here it's too small, so you only see this one above this bar mark. If you want to learn more about the traces, open this link below the video. These are the plotly.graphObjects.bar, and here you can see all the different traces or things you can play with when it comes to the traces. So we're going to play around with the text template, and you can see if you do Control Find, the text template will show you here everything that you can do within the text template and how you can play around with it, which is what we did here. Okay, and you can also look for the parameter text position. Let's look for that inside this web link, text position, and here we'll explain all about the text position. You have inside and you have outside, and I think you have auto, so you can figure that out automatically. Let's see if we missed anything. Nope, I think that was it. So I hope you learned a lot. This was really all the parameters that Plotly Express offers within the bar graph. I created this tutorial because I wanted you to be very comfortable using the bar graph, and I hope I achieved my my goal. If you want to learn more about the bar graph and maybe how to go to the next stage of creating a racing bar graph or an animated bar graph is another name, just look into the video above, and they'll teach you all about how to do that with Plotly graph objects and not Plotly Express. So there's two different ways of doing it. Or you can also click on the playlist and you'll see all the different Plotly graphs that I've been teaching. You can look into scatter plot or pie charts. There's also animated scatter plot, and there's going to be many more. All you have to do is subscribe below and turn on the notification for the Charming Data channel, so that way every week you get a new video on a different graph, a different chart, a different dash component or interactive capabilities that you can do in data visualization all in Python. I hope you enjoyed. Tell your friends about this, like the video below, and have a good day. Thank you.